What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 2 of Generation Sports. We're here again with the crew. Thank you for everyone who listened and watched episode 1. And we'll jump right into this week's episode. So kicking things off, we're going to start with buckets. All right.
Yep.
Who wants to start us off?
Well, since last episode, a lot has happened in the NBA. But I think the biggest headline is the Wizards and the Rockets made a deal. And the premise of the deal was John Wall and a first-round pick, future first, to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Russell Westbrook. It was a big move, and let's talk about it.
All right. So for those of watching, I'm going to throw a graphic up there of the comparison between the two. And if you're listening, we'll reference these stats. All right. Dad, what do you think of this deal?
Well, it all depends on John Wall's health. If John Wall comes back and he plays the way he's capable of playing, then it's worth the trade. I think that Houston will get a young player. He's got a lot of speed. He's a bona fide all-star point guard. And I'm not thrilled. I never was thrilled with Westbrook. I mean, he's super athletic, but as you notice in a lot of the playoff games, they left him wide open. They dared him to shoot the jump shot. And Wall, you can't do that to him.
I mean, the percentages in the graphic aren't off by a lot. John Wall is shooting 32% and Westbrook 30% from 3. So it's not off by a whole lot, but just watching the game, you seem like you have to guard Wall better.
It's definitely more than just the numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah. I also think that this deal is a very interesting one because there's a whole lot of variables surrounding it. And even outside of this trade, just the Houston Rockets in general, you know, having guys like DeMarcus Cousins and now trading for a guy like John Wall, that's a lot of risk.
Absolutely.
But it could end up being a lot of reward for Houston. So I personally like this deal for both teams. I feel like Washington was eventually going to have to move on from John Wall just because of the inconsistency. And then there was rumors that he was going to get traded, and he didn't like that.
Yep.
And I feel like this was going to happen eventually. And the Wizards got Russell Westbrook out of it, who, as of right now, you'd have to say is the better player in the deal. But, you know, John Wall played a preseason game the other night against Chicago, and he looked really good.
And Cousins look good.
They looked like they could be versions of their former selves. And if that's the case, I think Houston got a really good pickup, especially if they end up deciding to move on from James Harden.
Well, they also have played together in the past, and they're very good friends.
True.
It helps when you have, the players that know each other. They know how to play with each other. It helps a lot. So I think it's going to benefit them.
Well, I just think health is a big factor in this trade.
Yeah, of course.
If they both stay healthy, I think the numbers are going to be pretty much a wash, almost.
Yeah. Well,
advantage to Westbrook, of course. But
I disagree because I think Westbrook is going to chuck again.
Well, yeah,
he's
going to
go closer to OKC.
But
Westbrook.
I think that's a negative in the trade.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's going to take away from Beal.
Yep.
And he's going to be unhappy now.
Yep.
So now, do you lose another star? Do you have to move Beal?
Yeah, I think it's a weird situation for both teams because they're both, like, Houston's stuck in that we still have Harden, so we need to contend.
Yeah.
Even though we've been trying to contend forever, and we can never go over that hump. And then Washington is in that we need to rebuild, but we have Beal, so we want to keep him happy, but we also need to rebuild.
Yeah.
So I think they're stuck in the middle. Because on paper, Westbrook is the better player.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I don't trust Westbrook.
I just don't see him as being a prototypical point guard.
Nope.
He's more of a 2 guard. And just he never gets his teammates involved enough to keep them happy. So
Yeah, he when he was in OKC, he was just all about the stats.
yeah,
Then last year in Houston, I guess he was less so of that because they were, highly competitive
Right.
with Harden. But again, it's just like my dad said, you can leave him open. They were
Yeah.
sagging off of him.
well, on paper he was supposed to make the Rockets a lot better
Yep.
and more of a contender, and it just didn't.
And then they had to
didn't happen.
switch their whole team. They
Yeah.
traded
Capella.
Capella because of him, because
Yeah.
he was basically clogging up the lane.
Yep.
And I don't know what's happening in Houston, but
Yeah.
it's not pretty right now.
Not at all.
Yeah. That's only time will tell though with a
Yeah.
move like that.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
Now, talking about basketball and the trades, ESPN came out with their predictions for the playoffs. Now, I'm going to throw that up on the screen real quick, and you let me know what you think. Will this happen? So they got the 1 seeds being the Bucks and the Lakers.
Okay.
So
sure. I think that's very possible.
yeah, no big shock there.
Very realistic.
2 seeds, the Raptors and the Clippers.
I don't agree with that
Yeah.
one. I mean,
In which conference? Or both?
No, I mean the West. I can see it happening, but the East. What happened to Miami?
They have
Yeah.
them here as a 3 seed.
I think that Toronto losing both of their primary big men in Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol
Yep.
And
is
not
going to be a
replacing
huge
them.
loss. They picked up guys like Aaron Baines, Alex Len, but that's not going to get the job done compared
Nah,
to
I
what
don't
they
think
had
so.
That's not doing it.
prior to that. So I think that's going to be a
Agreed.
big loss for them.
Yeah, I think the Raptors took a step back.
Yeah, I agree.
Not a huge step because somehow, some way, they're a scrappy team.
Yeah.
Well, they got good coaching.
And
too.
they're
Yeah.
they're great at developing young talent, and I'm calling it right now, guys. Watch out for OG Anunoby. I think he's a very, very early most improved player candidate.
Well, he's gonna have to
Okay.
step it up.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna lean heavily on Siakam, and
Yeah.
we're gonna see if he can
Van
become.
Fleet.
Yeah, Van Fleet.
Yeah,
Also,
guys like
also.
Lowry too as a veteran.
Yeah.
We're
So
gonna
they
see-
still have some good players. They did lose some, and we have question marks.
Yeah, don't they have that young guy Boucher?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
he's got some talent.
Yeah.
Good athletic big.
Mhm.
Could shoot a little bit.
I don't know. It's gonna be tough to replace Serge Ibaka though. His
Yeah.
defense
Yeah.
and his leadership.
And his shooting in the playoffs was
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, he's definitely could
Yeah.
stretch the floor. The Clippers, on the other hand,
I don't know.
I mean,
Um,
on paper, they still have Kawhi.
Still have
And
PG.
just as long as it's not playoff P, they should be
My-
fine.
my worry with the Clippers in the regular season is I feel like they're probably the team that load manages the most in the league.
But
Definitely.
is that going to continue without Doc
Um,
Rivers?
I think it will just because I feel like Kawhi has been load managing for a while now, and I
Yeah.
don't think
Well-
he would want to stop that.
Well, the NBA is actually taking steps to try and mitigate that
Yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah.
Also, so I mean, I don't know how well it's gonna work as far as stopping load management, but they're
Yeah.
starting to take steps.
I do,
I got a
however,
sprained ankle.
Well,
I
Yeah.
have a stomach ache.
I do think this year it's going to be better for some of the younger teams, like maybe like a Denver Nuggets or Dallas Mavericks in the West, to try to move up in the standings in the regular season. Obviously for home court advantage and stuff like that you would normally want in the playoffs, but also having momentum, because this season no one really knows what's going to happen. But if you're winning a lot of games, especially down the stretch, that could really lead to success come playoff time.
True.
Yeah. All right. The 3 seeds, they got the Miami Heat and the Houston Rockets. I'm on my dad with this. I think Miami should be bumped up probably to the 2 seed.
I agree.
And I don't know about Houston. Houston, it scares me.
It's a crapshoot. They could
Yeah.
they could be the
Yeah.
top seed. They could be 2.
Does
they
Harden
could miss the
stay?
playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
They still have Harden as of right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He actually showed up, so I heard.
okay.
Finally, he's in Houston. He's not in Vegas partying anymore.
He also has to test 6 times
Yeah. So-
negative. So in order
Yeah,
to play.
I think Houston just has a little bit too many variables
Yeah.
to really tell right now.
John Wall, is he healthy? Is he not?
DeMarcus
is he on a
Cousins.
minutes restriction?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know.
So we'll see about Houston. Then we have the Sixers and the Jazz at the 4 spots.
I wouldn't necessarily mind the Sixers at the fourth seed, because I think they did get better this offseason, acquiring
Agreed.
guys like Seth Curry, and Danny Green, some nice shooters to fit around Ben and Joel. But behind some of the teams that are listed, like the Celtics and the Nets, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I see those 2 teams being better than the Sixers.
My problem with the Sixers are one of these teams. They have so much talent, but they don't show it on the court. You know, they take too many days off, and I would put the Celtics ahead of them. Celtics are young, talented. I think the Celtics are the better team. What kind of Joel Embiid are you getting? You know, the Joel Embiid that's going to be consistent, or the Joel Embiid that's going to be, you know, taking a day off where he gets like, you know, 6 rebounds and, you know, and that's the problem with the Sixers. And when are the Sixers going to, you know, be competitive from the outside? Because that's been their biggest problem too. They can't shoot. They can't shoot from the outside.
That's part of them trading for Curry.
Right.
But at what point do you give up on the whole Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid pairing?
I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I mean,
It's hard to sell that to a fan base.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you would have to, if you move one of them, you would have to bring back another star.
But
Yeah.
but my thing is, if you move one of them,
It
I
has
don't-
to be the right one.
no, I don't even. Not even that. I don't care who you trade. You're trading the better player, most likely.
Yeah, that's okay.
No
I
matter
can see what you're saying.
which team you're trading to,
Yeah.
you're most likely trading the best player in the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can see
That's
that.
that's a tough pill
That
to
is-
swallow
that
for
is-
a fan base.
Yeah.
It is. Both guys are top defensive players. They're still young. They have tons of potential.
That's why it's tough to
It
get
is
rid of
tough.
one of
It
them.
is tough.
Mhm.
It is tough.
And that's why I'm not a GM.
Will Ben Simmons prove to everybody that he's worked on his game and
He's gotta work
be
on
more
it,
consistent
yeah.
from the outside? Because, you know, a guy like Ben Simmons, just like Westbrook, just like Rondo, those are the guys that, you know, you play off until they could prove to you that they could hit the outside jumper.
Except for
Yeah.
playoff
Yeah.
Rondo. He actually made some shots.
Yeah, I know he did this year, but
Yeah.
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 It was shocking.
Uh-huh.
All right. The Jazz, I think they've been
Consistent.
steady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
been that mid-tier kind of team in the
Spider.
West for the last few years.
Yeah.
Shout out to Donovan Mitchell,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
senior and junior. But yeah, I think the Jazz are a solid team. They play good
Yeah.
together. They gel. The offense isn't always the prettiest, but they get the job done.
Yeah.
Donovan
Yeah.
Mitchell comes in the clutch. And then on the defensive end, you got Rudy.
Yeah.
They also haven't really changed much.
Yeah,
So, you know, it's
Mhm.
a little easier with this crazy off season and
that's true.
you know,
Yeah.
it's a little easier for them to keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. 5 seeds. You got the Celtics and the Nuggets.
I like both of these teams.
I hope I'm not too broad to say that these teams could easily be the 2 seeds in each conference.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, Denver is something else to me.
Yeah.
It just seems like every year the teams that bypass on certain talent in the draft, that talent winds up falling into Denver's hands. And they develop this talent and they wind up getting help from that talent when it comes to playoff time.
Yeah.
And they've done it year after year after year. I think for them to really move up in the seeding, I think that is important for them to play, you know, the bowls, you know, the young talent, and get the most out of them. Because remember, they did lose
Jeremy Grant.
Grant.
Jeremy
yeah.
Grant.
That was big.
So they got to fill his shoes. And a guy like Bo, you know, I mean, he's a talent that he played a little bit last year. Then towards the playoff times, they stopped playing him. But these are the guys that got to work in the offseason, develop their game, and prove in the exhibition games that they deserve more playing time.
I mean, Bo, anytime he does anything in practice, he's trending on Twitter. Like, everyone just wants to see Bol succeed.
Yeah.
He's also trying to win the Ben Simmons Rookie of the Year award.
Well,
Because he's still eligible.
really?
Yeah, because
Oh, because the minutes played and
no,
He only played games
Oh,
in the bubble.
and the bubble didn't count
I
for like
see.
towards like I guess Rookie of the Year. So I think he would become the first ever to actually log NBA minutes and then the following year be eligible,
Wow.
potentially win. So it's even crazier than Ben Simmons because Ben
Yeah.
Simmons just sat out the year. He didn't
Sat
play
out,
any
yeah.
minutes.
Yeah,
Same thing with
Blake
Blake.
Griffin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
did that
sat
as
out
well.
a full
Yeah,
year. They didn't
sat,
play
yeah.
any minutes.
Wow.
So Bobo going for the Ben Simmons award.
I think
That'd be
under the radar pickup that they made was the European point guard. I think Campazzo.
Yeah.
Is his name.
Okay.
They're actually talking about playing him alongside with Murray a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe even starting him. So
He's
Oh wow.
he's from I don't know a whole lot about him, but from what I've seen, he's kind of like a typical foreign guard, a Ricky Rubio type almost. Really great passer, good court vision, good IQ, and that might be a good fit next to a score first guard like Jamal Murray.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Could open up Murray for a lot
Mhm.
more scoring opportunities.
Right.
All right, moving on to the 6 seeds here. We got Brooklyn Nets and the Mavs.
The Nets are another team. Health is very important for them.
Yep.
KD coming back from a really bad injury. Will he be the explosive KD? And then the other thing is Kyrie. I'm not sold on Kyrie. I
Yep.
never was sold on Kyrie. When he played at Boston, he really held them back. And then when he was out, Boston played so much better without him. So what kind of Kyrie are you getting? Because Kyrie, to me, is more of a shooting guard in a point guard's body.
He also seems to be a little bit of a diva too. So, I mean, how does that affect this team? How's the leadership gonna work? You have a rookie coach and Steve Nash who these guys may just run all over him.
I mean, they already said they don't have a head coach.
Yeah. There you go. Look, you got assistant coaches that are head coaches
Yeah.
too. So
Mike
I don't know.
D'Antoni.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think the biggest thing with the Brooklyn Nets is going to be eventually Kyrie, because basically what you guys said, he's not always the best influence in the locker room, but I feel like in the past when that did work out, it was because he had a leader in front of him, like keeping him accountable,
LeBron
like LeBron James.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like if anyone would be fit to do that other than LeBron, it would be Kevin Durant, just because KD and Kyrie do have a very close personal relationship. So hopefully they'll be able to keep each other in check and stay healthy, and they can be competitive in the East.
yeah, I think it comes down to health and how the supporting cast gels with Kyrie and KD. Because the supporting cast by themselves, they, obviously they were missing that star level talent because Kyrie was hurt, KD was out the whole season. But you got Chris LeVert, you got Dinwiddie, you got
Joe Harris.
Yeah, you got a good,
I have a solid
team.
team.
Jared Allen. Who did they pick up again from the Clippers?
Clippers.
The shooting guard.
Oh,
I'm drawing a blank right
what's
now.
his name?
Landry Shamet.
Landry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have a good supporting cast. Is just how does that supporting cast gel with Kyrie and KD, and do they stay healthy?
It's a lot of touches to lose.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think
And then the Mavs.
going with Dallas, I think the X factor with them is Porzingis. He's going to be out in the beginning of the year, and if he can stay on the court, then they can be really scary. Even though they are pretty young, and they had a good drafted some good talent that might have fell a little bit. Guys like Josh Green and Tyrell Terry, guys like that. But Luka's going to run the show, and
Absolutely.
if he has his running man Porzingis with him for enough games, then they can really be competitive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, 7 seeds. We got Indiana Pacers and the Pelicans.
I don't like the Pacers at that spot. I just don't see them having enough talent to hold on to a playoff position.
Interesting. I like the Pacers starting 5.
Yeah.
But what's after that?
That's where
I like the Bulls starting five.
I mean, not as much as the Pacers,
Yeah.
but the starting five I think is their core, and they just need to have the rotations where you have someone who can score the ball on the court at all times.
And I think
don't see
getting
all the
Sabonis.
people.
And we're not saying they're a top seed. We're saying they're a 7th seed getting into the playoffs. That's why
I don't know. I'd put Atlanta over them.
okay.
Yeah. Getting Sabonis back is definitely going to
Yes.
help them out
I
a
like
lot.
Sabonis.
Yep.
But I think they're definitely a fringe playoff team.
And then what do you think about Pelicans?
Well, the Pelicans, what is there to think about them? I mean, they got Zion, but they don't have much more. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, they have a lot of young talent. You know, Brandon Ingram is an emerging star.
Yep.
Right.
They also picked up guys like Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams, some vets for that team. But I mean, they just got to put it all together. They got to make sure everyone is getting touches. I think Lonzo will help them with that. But they're a big wild card in the West.
I don't like the pickup of Eric Bledsoe. I feel like he creates more of a logjam.
Yeah.
You wanted to open up minutes for Lonzo, and you blocked them up again with another veteran point guard that's making a ton of money.
But they did get a plethora of draft picks in that deal. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You
But
do it for the draft picks.
I also think in the West, okay, the Pelicans, but then you have teams like Phoenix, who's
I like
up and
Phoenix.
coming.
Yeah.
The West is really hard. It's harder than the East to predict, the top 8 seeds, because the West is so loaded that, on any given night, I mean, you got teams like Phoenix that young, up and coming, and they added, Chris Paul.
Yep.
So
they have them listed here as the 8th seed.
yeah, well, you could push them up maybe to the 7th seed.
Yeah.
They have a lot of talent. Talent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You have a facilitator to play with Booker now.
Yep.
Leadership in the locker room.
I think Chris Paul is going to be
Huge.
so good for that team
Huge.
because they are very young. They're talented, but they are very young.
Very young.
Especially like their starters, their core, so young, and having Chris Paul be a leader. Hopefully, he does the same thing that he did in OKC last year.
Well, when you got a guy like Chris Paul, it's like having another coach, a coach on the court.
Yep.
And these guys are going to learn. I mean, you're going to see the young players develop so much in this team. It's going to be scary because during the bubble last year, they went undefeated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like both number 8 seeds in the Hawks and the Phoenix Suns, those were two of arguably the best off seasons. They both had some great acquisitions, and they're both really young. I think it's very possible for both of these teams to be in the bottom half of the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
The Hawks, it comes down all the moves they made, the short off season, how quickly do they gel?
True.
Do they start off, well?
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be somewhat of a factor. And then, a lot rest on Trey.
Yeah.
Trey got to perform.
Yeah.
Now that he's been performing, but he's been performing on a poor team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Now that the
which is-
team is,
it's a
he
lot
needs
easier.
to make that jump.
Yeah.
Now it's
Yeah.
more than just putting up the numbers.
Now
He needs
it's
to make his
putting-
teammates
yeah,
better.
getting
He needs
W's.
to sacrifice on the defensive end.
Yes.
I think that's going to be the biggest development.
Well, I think it was smart of them adding Dunn and Rondo because those are players that allow him to play off ball, and also you can hide him a little bit more on defense because they can guard 2 guards and even up to 3 guard. To small forwards.
Yep.
So I think that was very, very smart of them.
And going back just 1 minute to the West, where did you put Golden State? Where did they put Golden State? I mean, Golden State,
They left them off.
Yeah,
They-
you still got Curry.
Listen,
Yeah.
I think Wiggins is going to be big this year. He's gotten in great shape,
X
added
factor.
muscle finally. He went from being
Yeah.
a twig to adding some muscle. I think he's going to be good.
But
for them.
every year has
like-
been the year.
Yeah, but he's still 25. It's, it's,
I get it. But
he's
it's
the
the boy that cries wolf until we see
It's
results.
true. It's true. Well, he's got to do something someday, right?
Yeah.
I like Oubre. I like them getting Kelly Oubre Jr.
Yeah.
I think that was big for them.
Yeah, they're not on this list, but they can definitely still make the playoffs. I don't think they're, obviously I don't see them as a top seed without Clay, but they can still make the playoffs for sure, and that's scary for some of these teams.
Yeah.
For especially like the bottom half there,
Yeah.
Mavs, Pelicans, and Suns.
Well, the West can't take a day off. They can't. Because if you do, somebody's going to creep up on you.
Yeah.
And injuries.
Yeah.
Injuries happen, and a lot of things could change.
It'll
And-
definitely be competitive in the East as well because there's a lot of young teams towards the bottom. So we'll see how that works out.
And when it comes to injuries, what we said last episode too, with the short and off season, things that we've seen in football, a lot
Very
more
true.
injuries
Very
and
true.
everything.
Yeah.
Does it happen in basketball?
Right.
We don't know.
That's interesting.
All
We'll
right.
see.
So talking about playoff teams and off-season moves, and my dad kind of mentioned it slightly already. Tim, I think you proposed this. What was your thought process on this one?
Oh, about Kyrie?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Kyrie. Well, Kyrie has already been a winner, and he wasn't the main guy. LeBron was the leader on that team. I feel like Kyrie could work out in Brooklyn, but he's gonna need to like humble himself and learn how to become more of a team player, and just let KD run the show and he'll get his opportunities alongside that, and they can be successful.
Well, I think the advantage is that him and KD do have a good relationship. So it's a little bit different than his past situations where he didn't really have that friendship with that he does with KD. So I think that might go a long way. KD tells him, hey, calm down. I'm the man here. He has to listen.
Yeah, I just think that Kyrie plays his best basketball when he's second fiddle.
Yes.
When he's running the show, I think he's too much of a shoot first. Wants to put up the points, wants to put up the show.
And over dribbles.
Right. And one of the biggest issues now is he's home because, he's from New Jersey. So playing in front of the home crowd, does that really hype him up to try to put up the numbers and, and it hurts the team in the long run. So
that's if we have a crowd.
Yeah.
that's true.
Without the crowd,
Yeah.
it might not be
Yeah, but even
as big of a deal.
even like the prospect of trading Kyrie for, say, a James Harden, that has been a rumor that Houston doesn't want to give the Nets Harden without getting Kyrie or KD in return. I personally think that could work for Brooklyn. I feel like, Harden is obviously very ball dominant, and so is KD. But they obviously have a relationship as well, being former teammates.
Yep.
And I think that for me personally, I feel like Harden would be more willing to win. And I don't know how much he would sacrifice of his own personal success, but especially with a guy like KD, I would really hope that if they were to team up together, that they would do what they can and sacrifice at least a little bit. Because we know that KD can sacrifice. He's played on one of the best teams, arguably the best team of this generation, and he played with other superstar talent. And he's deferred somewhat. So we know KD can do it, and I feel like Harden would be more willing to do that than Kyrie Irving.
I think Harden would be a better fit.
Yeah.
I just see him as being a way better fit than Kyrie. But on the flip side, do the Rockets now even go after Kyrie, having just landed John Wall?
Yeah, that's
That's another thing too. Do they get a third team involved that wants Kyrie? How does that work out?
yeah.
Yeah, to me, I think most teams, if you look at them, have been better without Kyrie.
Yeah.
So you look at Boston, with and without Kyrie, the team had a better winning percentage, obviously less games, but better winning percentage, higher point differential, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, assists per game. So they were sharing the ball a lot more in Boston.
The
and
offense
then
was flowing without
he
him.
left and Kemba came in. They advanced further in the playoffs. Even the Nets.
And that's with Kemba struggling in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they still
And then look at the Nets with and without Kyrie.
Yeah.
If you are the franchise player or the go-to guy, and obviously we're saying KD is going to be that person.
Right.
Mhm.
But if you're 1A, 1B type of superstars, if you want to say it that way, the team can't be performing better without you.
Yeah, definitely not.
Look at other superstars. Like, if they go down, their team aren't even playoff teams usually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How are they playing better without you? That, to me, is eye-opening for Kyrie and why
really is.
I don't consider Kyrie a superstar.
I don't either.
And that's before even the head case with the media now, the flat world, and all this other ridiculous stuff.
Flat Earth.
The flat
Yeah.
Earth.
So I can't see Kyrie as a franchise player, and I'm not big on Harden either because I think he falls into a lot of the same category: ball dominant, lackluster defense. Even though he's improved defense, but it was impossible to not improve his defense. Like, if you go on YouTube right now and type in James Harden defense, there's like a half-hour video of him just standing there.
Yeah.
And people just blowing past him.
He's got the Matador defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really bad, but it's gotten somewhat better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would do that deal if I'm Brooklyn.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So many possibilities.
All right. Now going from one off season to the other, we have baseball. So things are starting to heat up a little in baseball. The hot stove, as they like to call it, which is different this year, obviously with COVID, winter meetings, not as much as leaking as usual because they're not all in the same place at the same time. But there have been some moves. Jay, what's been your move so far?
Well, my favorite move is the James McCann signing by the Mets. I think it's huge in that they were able to fill a hole with relatively a cheap contract. It's a little bit longer than I would like, 4 years, but $10 million a year annual is it leaves a lot of room for them to still go after the main big tickets that are out there, whether it's by trade or free agency.
So he got another stone.
Oh yeah, he's got another one of
Uncle Stevie working his magic.
filling up that gauntlet.
The reason why I like the McCann signing is because I said it in the last episode. The teams that usually win the championship are strong up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So what the Mets lacked last year, for the last couple of years, is a good defensive catcher, somebody that the other teams won't take advantage of because they were running on the Mets like crazy.
Oh yeah.
You know, so you get a guy that he's not bad on offense either.
No, not at all.
You know,
very comparable to
but
JT.
Yeah, but you get a guy that's going to help the pitchers out by keeping the runners, close and throwing some runners out, and it is the small piece of what we're hoping is the beginning of more signings where we get stronger up the middle, and we can make that playoff run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this move was a very valuable move for the Mets because, obviously Steve Cohen has a lot of money to spend, but he's spending it smartly and spending it the right way, because the Mets easily could have went out and spent money on a guy like Real Muto, but like Matt was saying, the numbers are pretty comparable to an extent. And for the money that we're getting McCann for, I think it's a very valuable move. And the biggest thing with McCann is that the last few years he's been steadily improving his game on both sides of the baseball. So, I'm looking forward to it, and I hope this is the first domino for the Mets this offseason.
So piggybacking off of what Tim said, I think the numbers are comparable. Obviously, JT's a little better on offense and better on defense as well.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely better. But JT's asking for 5 years, $100 million.
Yeah.
So he's asking for a $20 million a year.
Yeah.
And
which is essentially double.
Yeah,
the
it's
money
exactly
annually.
double the money,
Yeah.
and we got it for one less year.
Yeah.
I see this as a win all around for the
Right.
Mets, and the flexibility. Obviously, we're still in the rumors for Springer. People
And
are
Bauer.
leaning that way. Bauer, and he just put out a video recently
Yep.
talking about Met fans and how they're flooding his DMs and comments, and he's loving
Keep that
it.
going, guys. Keep that going.
Definitely. Don't forget about his agent too, Rachel. So going after her as well and
Yeah.
getting creative. He said he likes the bad Photoshop, so make sure we add some of those in. But if this allows that flexibility to still get a starting pitcher, still get a center fielder, so that keeps options open for us.
Oh, yeah.
So I think this is the best signing. I'd rather have him and someone else than just JT Realmuto.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Definitely.
All right. And with that, we go to the total opposite of the Mets, which is the Philadelphia Phillies. So all that talk about JT, the Phillies recently came out and said that they will not be pursuing to re-sign him and that they're basically broke. And what are your thoughts?
I'm not 100% sold on that. I think that's more of a smokescreen right now. I think they don't want to show their cards, but they just signed what's his name, Dombrowski,
Yeah.
and he's known for spending, like openly spending, and you're making him your first president ever for that franchise, and you're not gonna let him do what he does.
I mean, they spent all that money on Harper, and they
they did.
promised Harper that they were going to be competitive.
Yeah.
They haven't
Yeah.
been as competitive.
Well-
And also, their owner is worth $3.3 billion as
broke.
of June 2020. So at the time, he was the fifth richest owner in baseball. Obviously, Steve Cohen knocked him down to six. But still, $3.3 billion.
with a B.
Yeah. So, again, I understand COVID has hit hard for everyone,
Yes.
but $3.3 billion.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. You can't tell me that you're hurting for money. I don't know.
I do think the Philly situation is very interesting though, because like JR was saying, Dave Dombrowski is a guy who has been known to spend money and a guy who's known to be very aggressive and mortgage the farm system, which the Phillies don't really have that much of compared to other teams, but mortgaging that to win immediately, and they told Bryce Harper they would do that, but then you see they might not pursue Real Muto, and there have been some Zach Wheeler trade rumors
Right.
surfacing. So I'm really not sure which direction the Phillies are going in. I feel like only time will tell, but I don't know. I feel like if they're saying they don't have money, there's not really a whole lot they can do.
Yeah.
But this is one of the reasons why I'm happy that the Mets didn't pursue Realmuto. When the Phillies got Harper, they spent a lot of money on getting Harper, but they couldn't really surround him with anything. If you're gonna spend that kind of money on one player, that player better carry you. That player better take you to the promised land, because that's a lot of money you spend on one player.
And it's so hard to do that in baseball for one player.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And this is why you got franchises and like the Yankees who spend a lot of money on players, and yet they get stuck with the salaries with these bad contracts. I mean, when they got Ellsbury from Boston, and he sat on the bench,
just
making
robbed
a
them.
nice check.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult in baseball to have that one superstar. Just ask Mike Trout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not like basketball where you can just give your best player the ball.
The Angels, to me, are the dark horse, I think, in the Real Muto sweepstakes is the Angels, because for whatever reason, they refuse to sign pitching. They spend all their money on hitters. and just completely ignore the fact that
they're
they
making a
need
big
yeah.
push for Bauer as
Well,
well. At least the fan base is.
pitching. It would be smart if they went after him.
Well,
Yeah.
for me, the team you got to watch it for is Toronto.
That's true.
Toronto
with
has a
that young
lot
core?
of young talent, and they got talent in the minors that they can afford to trade to another team in order to get superstar players. I think they're looking to win now, especially with the young talent they have, and they're a team to be careful with in the American League.
Yeah, I think they're going to make some type of big move,
Mm-hmm.
if either a free agent signing or some type of trade. I don't know what it is, but I think with their young core, some other prospects as well available, either via trade or sign a Bauer or Remuto, and try to make that next
Springer.
push.
And shout out to Joshua Palacios from the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then the universal DH. So it seems like there's not a consensus yet, but there's rumors saying that it's not going to be back.
Well, I think they set out these rumors to kind of because of the way it affects the speed of the offseason. You have a lot of guys who are holding on hope that the National League is going to have DH so that they have more suitors. Guys like Nelson Cruz.
Yeah.
He was holding on thinking maybe he might have some National League teams looking at him for a 1 or 2 year deal. Now it's looking like he's probably going to stay with the Twins.
Yeah.
Even guys like, Marcelo Zuna, who
Yeah.
just had a great year being a
Yeah.
DH in Atlanta. There's no more DH in the National League, at least for the time being. That, he's probably going to end up in the American League this upcoming season.
Yeah.
That also hurts a team like the Mets. Dom Smith.
Yeah.
So if you play him, you're going to have to play him in left field. And he's not going to be your everyday left fielder. So do you take
Does
him?
the
Do
bat
you
force
trade
you?
him? Or do you keep him hoping that, later on they do decide, we're going to go with DH throughout the whole major leagues?
But does his bat force you to play him every day in left field?
I mean, I think it does, but it does. But then you also need defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if, Pete Lonzo is there, Dom Smith coming off the best year of his career, granted it was a shortened season, but does that force you to play him?
I don't think it forces you to play him, but it's nice to have his bat.
Yeah.
It's a left-handed bat. He's shown that he can hit for power. He's actually a better glove than Alonso. So if we did have to have the DH, it would help us twofold.
Oh, absolutely. Move him to first and
let Pete just focus on hitting.
Yeah, I think the universal DH is very back and forth. I personally like the DH in the American League only.
Yeah.
I like having the difference in the leagues.
Yes.
It gives something difference between the leagues.
Well, my biggest thing with the DH is, and over the years watching baseball, is it makes a decision harder in the National League when you don't have a DH.
Oh, yeah. Do you pitch it?
Do you pinch hit for your pitcher who's pitching a shutout, but the game is 0-0 in the 8th inning?
Yeah.
Or do you continue to keep that pitcher knowing that you have a bad bullpen and take your chances? I mean, as far as strategy goes, it's a lot tougher for the manager to make decisions on when you don't have a DH.
I personally feel like it should just be fully one way or fully the other, just because I do understand the perspective of strategy, and it does, it's a hard decision to make sometimes whether you want to keep your pitcher in the ball game. But I feel like with having a fully universal DH throughout the league, I feel like it definitely benefits the pitchers in the National League, because those guys are stepping up to the plate when a lot of them don't have any business hitting, and they can risk injury and something like that. It's not super common, but it can happen. But I feel like it should either be fully DH or no DH whatsoever, just because I feel like if you were to get drafted by a team maybe in the National League, but you end up being best suited as a DH. It might hinder your career depending on where you are at a certain time.
No, I definitely get that, and I respect the argument that I've seen of no one's paying to see a pitcher hit when you buy tickets, but to me, it's part of the game.
It is. Yeah.
It's part of.
Let the coach do his job.
Yeah.
And you know.
It's part of the game. You just like you throw the ball, you catch the ball, you got to try to hit the ball too.
And most of these pitchers, they were hitters in college and high school. And,
DeGrom played shortstop.
Yeah, that's
like in Mad Bum. He loves hitting.
Yeah.
That's why me personally, I wouldn't be opposed to having no DH at all.
Well, I don't think they'll do that because
I
you have.
I don't think they would ever do that, but I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Yeah.
To let the pitchers hit and keep that strategy, that aspect of strategy.
Well,
in the
the
game.
DH has prolonged a lot of careers.
Oh, yeah.
Guys are no longer able to field anymore, but they're still great hitters.
Martinez.
Yeah, Edgar Martinez.
Yeah.
Nelson Cruz now.
Yeah, he's 40 years old,
Yeah.
still
And
raking.
he's still unbelievable, right?
Yeah, he's gonna take a walker to first base soon. But yeah, I think it's very interesting. I personally like the difference between the leagues, especially when you get to playoff time in the World Series. That home field advantage just means a little more because on the National League side now, the American League manager has to play that guessing game.
Right.
And then when the National League plays at the American League home, who's going to be your DH? Why? How do you switch up your lineup potentially? Because all of that plays a part. It's very interesting. It looks like it might not happen this year, but then we'll see after this year with the next CBA.
Yeah.
I think once the next CBA, the players are gonna want the universal DH because it prolongs careers and everything.
Adds more money into their pockets and
absolutely. So I think this might be the last year of this.
But I think I remember reading where, in order to do something along those terms, you would have to give something back to the owners, which would probably be expanded playoffs, more revenue.
Interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Which I'm not opposed to either. More baseball.
I get it. It's just the way this year worked out with the expanded playoffs.
I wouldn't expand it quite that much.
It was too much this year. When you start getting teams under 500 in the playoffs, that's when it's like, no.
Yeah, you're watering down the playoffs.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So now it's time for halftime.
Oh, this is a rough one, guys.
So halftime, we're going to be talking about boxing, UFC, wrestling. So these type of ring sports in cages. What really brought us here to this topic was the unfortunate events of Nate Robinson.
Nate?
Yeah. Nate the not so great Robinson, who got knocked out. I'm not a big boxing, wrestling, UFC fan, but it was impossible to miss this knockout if you had the internet.
Yeah.
It was pretty rough.
You couldn't miss the memes either.
Oh yeah, as you can see on the screen right now, if you're watching.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems with Nate Robinson getting into this fight is this even goes for professional boxers. When you when a professional boxer is moving from weight class to weight class, you have to start with the guys at the bottom and work your way up. You can't go and fight somebody with experience. And Nate Robinson fought someone with 3 years of boxing experience. You can't do that. You're a novice. You don't know the sport. I don't care who's training you. Yeah. You gotta go and you gotta start at the bottom and then work your way up. And because when you don't, this is what happens.
There was also a size advantage too.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Pretty decent size advantage between them.
It's kind of hard not to have a size advantage against Nate Robinson.
That's true.
Wow.
No disrespect. Love Nate, especially when he played in Chicago.
Yeah.
But yeah, the funny thing was Nate was hyping it up as like he was fighting for the NBA and the NBA guys, and then immediately after the knockout, every player I follow on social media was like, "Yeah, no, you weren't necessarily representing all of the NBA," and then people were saying that Jake Paul should fight Ron Artest or Meta World Peace or whoever you want to call him.
Yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah, but that fight shouldn't happen in the ring. It should happen on the street corner.
Yeah,
Next
in Queensbridge.
They should just rent out a bodega and fight in there.
So how do you feel about Jake Paul fighting Mayweather next? That's the rumor right now.
I mean, it's all the publicity stunt at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, that's for money too.
I mean, they're getting money out of it. They're getting recognition out of it. So,
but you have a guy who went undefeated against professional boxers, and now he's gonna fight a YouTuber.
I mean, I don't know. I never said it was the smartest decision,
but would you get knocked out? Would you let Floyd Mayweather knock you out if you were gonna make millions of dollars?
Oh, absolutely. I'll fight him with my hands tied behind my back, and we're gonna pay me millions.
But is this
probably what is gonna happen?
Is this where the pandemic has us? That we have, comedy fights like this. I mean, the Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. fight.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was a waste of time. And then they said it was a draw. I mean,
Roy
Jones was dancing the whole night, holding him, hugging him, and I mean, it's entertainment, but to what point?
Yeah. I get it.
Yep.
All right. And thank you for halftime. Again, if you have suggestions for halftime, leave a comment and we will be sure to try to add that in. And moving on to Take It to the House, our football segment. So we're going to start off talking about the Steelers. Are they a fluke?
They sure are. Here's a team that has played a weak schedule. They have no running game whatsoever. If your quarterback has to throw 53 passes in a game, you have a problem, a big problem. And they showed their weaknesses against the Washington football team. And I'm telling you, this is a team that if they don't correct their running game, they're going to have problems. And playing Buffalo as their next opponent, I think that's another L for them.
You better say sorry to Joel.
Sorry, Joel.
Big Steeler fan and follower. Yeah, I mean, they can, to their point, they only play the opponent that's in front of them.
Yeah.
So they don't pick the
schedule.
schedule. Yeah. They don't do any of that. They're playing the schedule in front of them.
Can't punish them for that.
Yeah. No, but when it comes to playoff time, that's when things are going to get interesting. Mm-hmm. But to their defense, they don't get to choose. Just like you don't choose if there's an injury on the other team.
Yeah.
Like you can only take it, as cliche as it is, you can only take it week by week.
I actually think they may be the third best team in the AFC behind Buffalo and Kansas City.
Okay.
I could agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, Kansas City has the firepower.
Right.
Like no other.
Mm-hmm.
I just see the Steelers as come playoff time. I think they'll be easier to game plan against because of the lack of running. If you can find a way to contain Roethlisberger, I think you could just win that game.
Yeah. I mean, their resume, it looks good on paper, but when you really dive deep into it, as you see on the graphic here, they've beaten a lot of subpar teams, and like JR and Dad were saying, they're very predictable. They're very one-dimensional. So come playoff time, if you have the right game plan, I think it's very possible for them to get shut down.
The other thing is you're going to get that old man hurt dropping back so many times.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. He can only take it for so much longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Jay, you wanted to talk about the Cam versus Cam.
Oh, yes. We have two different Cams trending two opposite ways. First, we have Cam Akers from the Rams.
Yeah.
Running back. I mean, he's finally regained his starting position again after an injury. and he ran for, what was it, 171 yards?
Yeah, 171, the most by a rookie this year.
Look at that. I think he's gonna hold on to that spot for the rest of this year, and he may be one of the best young running backs moving forward. How do you feel about that?
Well, me being a Rams fan, I'm super excited. I wanted him.
Biased.
Yeah, I'm slightly biased. I wanted him to start, and he started at the beginning of the season, but then he injured himself and lost his job. But now that he's gained it back, what I love about the guy is he played on a Florida State team that had one of the worst offensive lines in college football, and yet the guy still put up great numbers. And as you can see in his last game, 171 yards rushing, it took so much pressure off of Jared Goff and the Rams. And then the Rams, held the ball for a long period of time, which is important. Time of possession now in the NFL plays a big role, especially when you're playing a good competition on the other side. They beat New England, who won the previous week 45-0. And the Rams put a spanking on them and held them to 3 points. I mean, Cam is the future's bright.
Oh, yeah. Need that running game.
Yeah. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we got Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Yeah. The outfit's still on point.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Outfit's on point, much like Russell Westbrook. But,
Yeah. But on the field,
I don't know. I just don't see the arm strength anymore. He just doesn't have it.
I think his decision making is really is the thing that's hurting him. A lot of times these quarterbacks that are run first and pass second, they think, let me run. Then the last minute want to pull it back and throw it. He's playing more like a Fig Newton than a Cam Newton.
That's a good one.
oh man, yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on both Cams trending in the different directions. Obviously rooting for Cam Newton, good
Me
guy.
too, yeah.
Great.
Want
big
him
Cam
to
Newton
succeed,
fan.
but also not too mad because he's on New England.
Yeah. I thought he would do much better in that system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're going to move on to our last segment, which is garbage time. So once again, garbage time is when each of us have one thing that we will ask the other host to answer. So who wants to kick things off?
I'll kick it off.
All right.
This might get a little testy,
So,
ladies and gentlemen.
This one is no, not yet.
Just in general, this whole segment
Yeah.
is it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead, Dad.
Okay, so who's going to break the New York jinx? It's been years and years and years. The last time any New York team won any kind of championship was 2009, the New York Yankees. And, New York we're used to winning. And what's happened to the New York teams, and who's going to be the team to break the New York jinx?
We've never had to wait this long,
Yeah,
more
that's-
than a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, have the graphic up here, have both baseball teams, both basketball teams, and all 3 football teams. Yes, Victor, I included the Bills for you. So, Jay, who do you think breaks the streak and when?
Well, speaking of the Bills, I think the Bills right now have the best team out of the New York teams, the best chance. I think they're one of the top teams in the AFC. If things go their way in the playoffs, I could see them breaking the drought.
Okay, so you're saying they can
I'm-
break the drought
I'm-
this year?
I'm going with Buffalo this year.
Interesting.
Nice.
All
You
right.
know they don't win championships.
I know, but listen, we've seen a lot of sports curses broken, and this may be the Bills.
But it is 2020,
yeah,
right?
it's
Oh, yeah.
2020. Anything can happen.
Anything is possible. Shout out to KG.
Yeah.
I think the Bills, again, they're playing well. They have the opportunity. I'm not 100% sold on them.
Okay.
I like Brooklyn's team, but how healthy is KD, and
Yeah.
will Kyrie drag them down?
Time
And
will
then you go to baseball, and I think both New York teams have really good teams.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the offseason, time will tell in the offseason. The Yankees, I think, need to make some moves. They need to re-sign LeMahieu. The Mets need another move or two for sure. But I don't know. I'm not sold on the Bills, not sold on the Nets. I'm going to go bias, and I'm going to say the Mets in 2022.
Okay.
I don't think they do it next year. I think they need a year still to gel. I think they're going to make a big move and let Steve Cohen one more offseason. 2022.
That's fair.
I hope so. So, maybe we could be there for it. Right?
Yeah, that also.
But yeah, I agree with what Matt was saying. I feel like the sport that New York fans should definitely have the most hope in is baseball, just because both teams have a really good chance of being competitive for the next few years. Man, if I had to pick one team, we all here are Mets fans, so I would probably pick the Mets. But I kind of agree with JR a little bit. I feel like the Bills can be really competitive this year, and even possibly the next couple of years. The Kansas City Chiefs are a big hurdle, so if they can get through that, I think they definitely have a good shot. But if the Mets and the Yankees make the right moves, have good offseason, can stay healthy, because that's been a big issue, then I think both of those teams can definitely be very competitive as well.
Well, my thoughts on all this, the team I think is going to break the snap is the Knicks. Nah. No.
How many years?
Yeah, right. Another 20 years.
I don't think any one of y'all were born. My pick would be either the Mets or the Yankees. I think the Yankees was smart last year. Okay, adding pitching. I think it was something that they needed, but if they don't sign LeMahieu, then they're back to going in reverse. The problem with the Yankees is they had a lot of injuries and they had a lot of power guys that in the playoffs, if you notice, the power guys don't exist. I mean, this ain't the years of Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, as if you notice, it's pitching and timely hitting, and I think a guy like LeMahieu gives them that and defense. But the Mets have strong pitching. If they can add Bauer and a defensive center fielder, it doesn't even have to be the top guys. Just somebody that could catch the ball with a good WAR. Then I think it's very important for them to add that, and it's gonna be either the Mets or the Yankees to break that streak, and hopefully soon.
All right, everyone, bookmark this and let us know how right or how terribly wrong we are. All right. Tim, you want to go next for yours?
Yeah, let's do it. My garbage time question is, how do you guys think about James Harden? Do you guys think James Harden will be on the Houston Rockets for this whole coming season?
I do. I think he maybe not the whole season. He's definitely going to start the season on the Rockets. They have no urgency to move him because he's under contract. He's not an expiring contract. I think they talk him into at least giving this a try, seeing how the Wall and Boogie experiment happens there. You're leaving behind the bad system that D'Antoni was running there for so long. Who's their coach now? Silas, right?
Yeah, Steven Silas.
I think he should give it a shot and see how it works. Now, if they start off the season really bad, then I could definitely see them moving on from him at the deadline.
Yeah, I think he definitely starts the season. It was hard enough to get him to show up in Houston, and the season is right around the corner. So I think by default he starts the season. I don't know how many moves are going to happen with COVID and all the offseason, the shortened offseason.
Yeah.
I think this trade deadline might be a little different than most. So I think he finishes out the season, and then they would move him in the offseason depending on how this year goes, which I don't think this experiment's going to go very well, personally. So I think he gets moved in the offseason because that's when I think they'll be able to get the most value for him.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think that he stays in Houston unless there's a contending team that has a major injury towards the end of the season and they want to, make a splash for the playoffs. But the only way Houston trades him is if somebody overpays for him. That's the only way.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys said. He's definitely starting the season with Houston. As the season goes on, we'll see what really happens, how committed he is, how much he buys into the system. But as Jay was saying, Steven Silas, their new head coach, he was an assistant in Dallas last year, and Dallas had the best offense in the league. And he was almost like an offensive coordinator. He was one of the main guys running that offense from a coaching standpoint, along with Rick Carlisle, of course. But from what I saw with John Wall and Boogie, they both look good. The sets they were running, a lot of pick and roll. I feel like Harden, as great as he is as an isolation player and, getting to the free throw line and, hitting tough shots, I feel like he would really excel in the pick and roll as well because he is a good passer. And now they actually have some bigs to run some pick and roll with.
Finally, yeah.
So, it's definitely going to be an experiment and, hopefully it goes well because Houston has been a consistent playoff team and, more recently a contender with Harden. But we'll see.
All right. My garbage time question, which there's no right answer, it's open-ended, is how would you make the baseball offseason more exciting? Because obviously basketball offseason steals the show with all these signings and trade rumors and everything, and baseball's so dragged out. If you can make up a rule, how do you make it more exciting?
This is a tough one.
I have a couple ideas.
Let's hear them.
I think you take a cue from the NBA and that you have to add a sense of urgency. So being that there's whatever amount of months stretched out for this offseason, I think hurts baseball. I think it hurts the excitement behind the offseason, and I think it hurts the players' pockets also. You have more times for teams to prepare and look at numbers and crunch and everything and make the right signings. I think if you shorten it, maybe give the awards in December and start the offseason in January. This way you have, 2 months before camps open up and stuff. It's more of the mad dash that the NBA had going on. And you have more money.
So you will push free agent signings until the calendar year?
Yes, because right as it stands now, the morning after the World Series ends, the offseason starts. And I just think that that's why everything moves at a snail's pace. I think if you do that, if you maybe soften the luxury tax a little to get other, more teams spending more, and also create a salary floor. I think you have some teams that are not spending, and you have teams that are spending. And I think if you force teams to spend a minimum amount, you'll have more action going on.
I can dig all of those.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues is with baseball, and why a lot of people consider it a boring sport, is because of the length. Okay, 162 games, and then the off season seems like it's taking forever. So, like JR said, I agree, where you got to make the period of the off season shorten the amount of time that teams can sign players. That way, it becomes more of, a competitive flow where teams are saying, "Oh, wait, we only got a month to sign these players. Let's go after them right away." And you'll have more teams competing that way in order to get the best players, because after that month, that's it. So it's to me is more about because they play such a long season, shorten the off season so that way it becomes more of a competitive thing, and put more stuff on on TV and on the internet for people to view. Basketball and football are all on, where people could watch and see, like the Major League Baseball draft,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's no excitement to it,
It's also because those players aren't going to make an impact for years.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
This
But
is minor league system.
yeah, that's fine. But you could do it in a different way where, you instead of players being in their home, have them show, the top.
They do
30.
that now. The first round is in person. They've been doing
Right.
in their studio in Jersey.
Okay.
But it's also in the middle of the season, which
Right.
is odd.
Yeah, it's
The draft
weird.
is in June
Right.
compared to in the off season for the other sports.
For the other
Mhm.
sports, yeah.
So that's always that's the unique thing with baseball too,
Right.
and I think that's the benefit of basketball's off season is the season ends, then you have the draft. So right after the season,
Yeah.
it's all draft talk.
And you have the moratorium, then you have
Yeah, the awards
Yeah,
and
the
everything.
But I think that baseball can create a similar situation. They may not have the draft to work
Yep.
with, but there are other ways that they can kind of squish that off season and make
Yeah.
it shorter.
Yeah, I agree. I think just either filling in some of the empty time that they have, maybe with the draft or, some other phase of the off season to make it more entertaining, or just shortening the off season in general so things happen quicker and, the hot stove actually gets hot
Yeah.
and,
Not lukewarm.
yeah.
This is the room temperature stove right now.
Yeah, so just any way to make it more urgent and, more competitive, I think that would definitely spice up the off season in baseball.
Yeah, I definitely like the idea of shortening the time period. Obviously, you don't want to shorten and put a cap to like with the last day they can
Oh,
sign.
no,
That's
no,
why
no.
I think changing it to the
Yeah.
calendar year is
Yeah.
very interesting. It's just what do they do in November and December? I think they need to brainstorm that
Yes.
in order to make
Yeah.
that plan work.
Well,
but it's a good idea.
If you use December to announce, awards and stuff like that, I think that kind of helps. Maybe you do start the off season on Christmas Day, since that's been a big day
True.
in past.
Your
in the
team
past.
could give you a present.
There you go. Yeah. Because you'll have like how the NBA has a certain amount of time where you have handshake deals and stuff. So
Yeah.
once the
Yeah.
time
The
actually hits,
rumors,
Yeah.
but then
yeah. I mean, look, a perfect example is James McCann. They've been talking about him for about a week now, signing
Yeah.
with the Mets, and it's just been okay, almost there, almost
Yeah.
there, almost there.
oh, surprise! Someone put in an offer. It's not a done deal, but
Yeah.
it's most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No sense of urgency. there.
All right, and Jay, your
All
garbage
right.
time.
So my question is a follow-up on my question last episode about the Lakers winning a repeat championship. Now, if they do, which we all agreed that they have the best chance and it's very likely.
Right.
If they do win, how does that affect the GOAT question? How does that affect LeBron versus Michael Jordan? Who is the GOAT? Who wants to start?
Go ahead.
I mean, I think it makes it very interesting. I personally think it's very close between the two, and I don't think you can be wrong saying one or the other.
Okay.
To me, I think LeBron has the edge because of the consistency, the longevity, and the well-roundedness. He's not as good of a scorer, but I think overall basketball player, I think LeBron is better. The only thing Jordan has that everyone goes to is the championships. So as LeBron closes that gap, I think the conversation when it comes to that argument point becomes less and less impactful.
Yeah. I agree with that sentiment. I feel like the debate is very close, but it's really hard to tell. Like, it's really hard to compare these two guys, as great as they both are. But going back to JR's question, I feel like LeBron winning another championship, I don't know if that in particular necessarily means anything for his progress to catch or surpass Jordan in the GOAT debate. Just because he'll still have less championships than Jordan if he does win one this year. And he'll still have those playoff losses, those NBA championship losses that he has on his record. So I feel like, as Matt was saying, the longevity is definitely important. But him just winning a championship again, like, I don't think that necessarily makes any substantial progress in the GOAT debate.
But what Tim said was the playoff losses, and then he corrected himself and said championship losses. Yeah. So for whatever reason, it seems like LeBron losing in the finals is a bigger talking point than Jordan losing in the Eastern Conference, which is always weird to me that LeBron gets penalized more for making it to the finals than Jordan does losing in earlier rounds.
I'm going to tell you why.
All right.
LeBron made the playoffs, 10 consecutive seasons in the East? In the least?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, here's my thoughts, okay? I'm old school. I watched Michael Jordan play. I had many playing with the Knicks, not because I was a Knicks fan, because I wanted to see the Bulls play. And I knew that the Bulls would play the Knicks in the playoffs, and I get to see my idol, Michael Jordan, play. I was there for his first game at Madison Square Garden and his last game at Madison Square Garden. The difference between Mike and LeBron, I wrote some notes, okay? Okay, we know Michael is 6-0 in the championship game, and LeBron, after winning this year, is 4-6, okay? In the championship games, the NBA Finals, Michael Jordan is 24-11. LeBron, before the season, was 18-31. Michael Jordan never got swept. LeBron got swept twice.
Wait, so Jordan getting swept in the first round doesn't count?
By the Celtics with 5 Hall of Famers.
But you Jordan never got swept.
Listen, I'm talking about in the finals.
Okay.
Okay? Don't interrupt me, son. Father knows best. Finals loss, right? LeBron lost twice, 4-1. Jordan never even seen a Game 7. He didn't even know that the championship went 7 games. Okay? LeBron was on the side of 2 of the most lopsided losses in NBA Finals history.
On the wrong side.
On the wrong side, yes. Now, finals opponents. Before this year, Michael Jordan's finals opponents had an average of 61.2 wins and LeBron 60.8. Okay? So, the competition was right there, like equal, just about.
But that doesn't say anything about their teams, because to me, the Bulls were the favorites.
Well, here's the thing.
Most, if not all, of those finals where LeBron's teams was not always the favorites.
Well, okay, so let me tell you about that. When LeBron's team played the Warriors, right? They played them 4 times. 4 times in the championship, they won in 3 against them. LeBron's team, when he played in Miami, that he promised everybody they were going to win 7 championships, lost to the Dallas Mavericks with 1 superstar, okay, Dirk, 1 superstar. Then the other thing is, you look at, I'm not killing LeBron, because LeBron, to me, is one of the greatest players to play. But when you try to compare him to Michael Jordan, there's no comparison. I mean, to me, there's only one GOAT. I think there's only one GOAT. I would compare LeBron more to a Magic Johnson,
which he's better than.
LeBron is an excellent player, but if you look at LeBron's stats in big games, in game-winning shots and everything, he doesn't compare to Mike, not at all.
Yeah, I would love to see those specific stats.
Okay,
I think it's comparing apples to oranges. I've always said it. LeBron and Jordan, 2 different positions, 2 different play styles. But for the sake of this GOAT argument, I have to say Jordan is number 1. and LeBron is cementing himself and widening the gap between number 2 and number 3. He is number 2. He's with his longevity and his cumulative stats and everything. He is creeping up on, and making that GOAT conversation better. But I just don't see it. I think all the intangibles that Jordan brought to the game, the fact that I don't know. I feel like LeBron has jumped ship a few times now. He's campaigned for superstars to come to the team, something Jordan never really did. I just see Jordan as number 1. I don't think LeBron winning. I don't think if LeBron wins his 6th championship, he's gonna surpass Jordan as number 1.
But see, the other thing with that is, and it was brought up, is longevity. So a lot of the stats that LeBron has passed Jordan in is because LeBron has played more seasons than Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan was injured. He was out. Then he left basketball. I mean, who leaves basketball after they won a three-peat and then comes back and wins another three-peat?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, again, LeBron is he's excellent. He's the greatest player in the game right now.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah.
Okay, is nobody competes against
on
him.
and off the court.
Yes,
I think he's amazing.
yeah. I mean, he's a great guy. Yeah, and but comparing him to a prime Michael Jordan, there's I don't see it.
There's very few players I've ever seen that just had that killer instinct that Michael Jordan had. He demanded the ball. He demanded that spotlight. You don't see that often. You got guys that want it but don't produce. He wanted it. He produced. He actually made other players want it and produce on his team.
Well, the other thing is they played in 2 different eras where the rules were different.
Absolutely.
So, Michael Jordan's era that you had the hand check where you don't have it now. A flagrant foul that they call now was a regular foul back then. So it's a difference in the era.
Also, the play style is different. The three-point shots,
a lot more
spaces
emphasis on
out.
that.
Yeah,
Right.
I personally just feel like overall, based on this question, like even if you were to assume that LeBron and MJ are equal players, you think they're 1A, 1B, if you were to compare their championships, if LeBron wins another championship, Jordan still has the edge, at least in the finals.
Yeah.
So I feel like that would still put Jordan over, above LeBron in that aspect, even if everything else was to be equal.
That's always going to be an argument for the Jordan fans.
And it obviously can't be the only argument, but
no. I think it's a debate. I think it's a worthy of a debate.
it is.
And
that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And I believe in the context of this question, just LeBron only winning another championship, I don't think that alone helped him that much.
Well,
No.
the other thing is this, is if you ask the players that played during the Jordan era, right, they're going to say Jordan, of course, but Jordan didn't let anybody eat.
Yeah.
While Jordan was playing, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, I mean, you could name them one after another, and they never got a chance to get that ring.
Even a guy like Hakeem Olajuwon only got one while Jordan was out for those 2 years.
And then during the LeBron era, you had other people that got to eat. You had the Dirks that got his ring. You got the Currys, and the KDs and everybody else. So,
Okay. There's other people that ate during Jordan's era, but I think it's a good argument to have.
yeah.
And unfortunately, this is an argument we're gonna forever have because it's no set in stone right
there
answer.
is no right
For our
or wrong
subscribers,
answer.
give us your opinion.
Just
Yeah,
remember,
drop a comment.
just remember, we're always looking for the next Jordan, not the next LeBron. Okay.
Okay, I'll take that. All right, everyone. Thank you again for watching episode 2. We'll be back again soon. Happy holidays and peace.
See ya.